Alright, this week I'm going to talk like how to combine the last two videos and everything. So with the Sinclair method, I talked about like how like the approach it as like in a sense the disease concept or whatever, and like using medication to overcome like a disease. Last week I was using like analogy of like smart recovery to overcome like behaviors and stuff. Excuse me. And so this week I'm going to kind of like showcase like both of them and kind of like give you like kind of like a generalized timeline with using the two of them together versus like your timeline like you would follow through AA and everything. So for instance, like you're just starting to come off like drugs and or alcohol or whatever, and you start using the Sinclair method to kind of like use it as a medication in a sense to like kind of block those like receptors, because when you drink those receptors get blocked, and so in essence you're not getting that buzz, you're not getting like that feel good kind of like methodology, or like that feel good hormone in your brain, like, oh hey look, I want some more of this because this feels good and everything. So it blocks that, so like the initially you're getting into that, and so using that, especially like with the getting into like a treatment, and of course unfortunately most treatment centers are based on like the 12-step recovery, or I should say this 12-step bullshit that's out there, because you need to get religion out of mental health. Now if you want to find religion after the fact, then like go ahead, as I got this cough and everything. So for instance, getting back to like a Sinclair method, you use the Sinclair method, you're maybe in treatment for like the first month or whatever. So now like that first month you're now just starting to get onto like a steady ground, and then you start using the combo with smart recovery to kind of attack the behaviors and like get those underlying reasons, and like, oh, why was it like what drove me to drink, like a lot of times I'm sure that like a lot of people can relate in that you might have like an underlying condition that that drove you to the drink, like you might have like anxiety, or like you might have a bunch of an OCD or whatever. You might have depression, or like me, a communication disorder, or something that like was there that like, oh, okay, so here's the underlying issue that led you to the drink. Now, of course, in AA, the underlying issue that led you to drink, that's an outside issue. So like you're basically, your mental health is an outside issue towards like why you drink. You went down the road of like substance abuse. So it's like kind of like why you drink or use is an outside issue when it comes to AA. And then, so going into AA, you're not addressing the issues that led you to drink in the first place. And so like that kind of perpetuates the problem of not addressing the issues. So by using the Sinclair method from the start, and then when you're in treatment, starting to use like things like smart recovery to kind of get those issues, you're now starting to build upon like you're getting success, and you're starting to build success upon success and everything. So say after that first month again in like the treatment center or whatever, you use the 1-2 combo of the Sinclair method to kind of treat like in a sense the disease part of it, and then use smart recovery to in essence like to kind of tackle the behavior issues. Then when you get out like the first month, like, okay, so I got some decent like tools that I can use. And then in month 2 and 3, you're now starting to build up on that, and you're starting to clear your head, get out that like drug and or alcohol like induced brain fog, and you're now starting to think more clearer and everything. Geez, it seems like I want to say I got a cold or something, but that's neither here nor there. So, but anyway, back to like now you got 3 months by using like techniques from smart recovery to kind of like substitute like habits and behavior, positive ones, with the negative ones that led you down to drink, while you're tackling like the issues with like of the underlying issues of what led you to drink in the first place. Maybe like using the Sinclair method with naltrexone and everything, you might only maybe have to use it for maybe say the first 3 months, like if you're going down to the road like I did, where you just completely quit and everything. Then you build yourself up to get to the point where maybe you're just using the behavior stuff that like is in smart recovery. Yeah, it's that time of year where it's like starting to get colder and everything, so bear with me. So like month 3 to month 12, so at the by the end of the first year, you should have yourself moving on to like the point where you may not necessarily need to have meetings anymore. So then like maybe after a year, maybe two, you're completely free of having to go to meetings, because now you have yourself established with like all the positive habits that you've replaced with those negative habits that you had with like doing all like the drinking and drug use that led you down to that like substance abuse. So you now, after like say a couple years, you've got yourself like established like a decent. You got like a job. Like, okay, well, here's a job that like helps me pay the bills. I'm working 40 hours a week. I got like a couple hobbies as I continue the cough and everything. So after like a year or so, like you got that job, like I said, you got maybe some hobbies. You're going to the gym on a regular basis, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. You're eating healthy. You got like pretty much everything in order, and now you're starting to get your rest of it starts to branch out, and like maybe you're now starting to get your finances, or maybe like you got some debt that you had to pay off, and you're working towards that. You're starting to rebuild your relationships and everything, and like now you're starting to make new friends and everything with the hobbies that you're getting into. So then after like a couple of years, you've got yourself kind of like well established, and then from there on, you're pretty much just like finding new stuff, like like new hobbies, and like maybe new social circles that you're getting into. Like maybe you're going down to like local gaming stores, and you're getting into like card games, role playing games, or you're starting to branch out to new social circles to try and meet new people, to find new interests, and like you're constantly trying to build upon like your previous successes. So now, of course, that's kind of like how the time, general timeline with using Sinclair method and the smart recovery. You move on and towards bigger and better things and everything. With AA, like you're pretty much always beaten down to the point where like unlike the method I just said, you're kind of given the opportunity. Hey, look, you're in the driver's seat. Now it's your kind of responsibility to build upon those successes, and like you're the captain of your own ship, and like to go out into the sea called life and everything. So it gives you full control. And hey, look, I'm fully in control of all this. And like, hey, it's easy to beat yourself up like when you have a slip or whatever. But like with the tools and stuff that you get, and like for instance, like smart recovery, lets you sit there and focus in and like, okay, well, where did I mess up, and so I can learn from it, and not like necessarily beat yourself up, be like, instead of, oh man, I'm totally fucking worthless. Like, okay, well, I had a mistake. What can I learn from this, and then and moving on. Whereas like the timeline from AA is as soon as you get into AA, like it's drilled into your head, like you have to make in 90 meetings in 90 days. You have to get a sponsor. You have to do the steps. Now, they're presented as suggestions, but you quickly learn that like no one says like, boy, am I glad that I didn't take these suggestions. You quickly learn that they're pretty much absolutes. You absolutely have to get a sponsor. You absolutely have to do 90 meetings in 90 days. You actually absolutely have to do service work. You actually absolutely have to get into the big book, and you have to absolutely do everything that like the or like the religious organization of AA states and everything. So after 90 days and 90 meetings, you're no further along than when you first started, because you're still going to meetings, you're still doing all the like big book bullshit, you're still like dealing with the sponsor, and like who like wants to like act like a therapist, but they're bound by like no laws or anything to like in a sense like priests or doctors or like a therapist. Like when you go to them, like, hey, look, these are like are my issues. They're not bound by like a HIPAA laws or anything. They could full well like, hey, look, this is what's wrong with me. Like, I need help sorting this out. They could well turn around and like turn to people that you actually trust, and be like, hey, look, this is what they're doing and everything, and pretty much pull out the rug from underneath you. But anyway, and that's kind of like a whole nother story and everything. So that's and it's a possibility. But after 90 days, okay, well, you still have to go to meetings, you still have to do service work, you have to now, like, after you finish your 12 steps, now you got to start bringing other people in and like to go through the same bullshit and everything. And you like 2 years later, you're still going to meetings, you're still talking with a sponsor, you're still doing all like it's always ongoing. You always got to do your steps, and you always got to work with your sponsor. You always got to do all this and everything. So 20 years from now, you're still going to be doing the same bullshit with AA, whereas versus like using the Sinclair method and Smart Recovery 20 years from now, you're going to be like a whole totally different person, and you're going to look back and be like, look at all the stuff that I was able to accomplish in the last 20 years by, like, in a sense, moving on from my life of like drug and or alcohol abuse. And like the last 20 years have been fantastic and everything. Whereas with AA, 20 years from now, you're going to still you're going to look back and like, I'm still going to fucking meetings. I'm still talking to the sponsor, and like you're going to still kind of like, man, I haven't done jack shit in my life in the last 20 years because I have to do all this stuff first and everything, and like not realizing that like once you get to a point, especially with like the Sinclair method and like using Smart Recovery, you're going to get to the point where like, oh hey, look, I'm actually pretty good. Whereas like with AA, nope, you're totally fucking worthless. You're still hopeless. You're still powerless, and there's no getting better from this. So the question like that I'm kind of like presenting with this video, and I will be linking the links to like the ones I used in the last previous videos in the description and everything, so people can check this out. So is the question ultimately like with this video that I'm kind of leaving with you is, do I want to go down a road where like I can look at back 20 years from now and look back and be like, and actually feel good about myself and like all the stuff that I was able to do? Now, can you necessarily get rid of all the regrets? Most likely not, but you're going to have a lot less regrets versus going down AA and looking back and feeling like you didn't do jack shit because I'm still going to meetings, I'm still doing I'm still getting talking to sponsor, I'm still doing big book work, service work, and this and that. And like, I didn't do jack shit. So it's going to quite possibly, I'm not going to say certainly set you up for failure, but it is like a much better possibility that you're just going to set yourself up for failure going down the AA road versus going down the Sinclair and Smart Recovery road. So why not go down the road where you're going to continue setting yourself up for future success instead of going down the road where you're going to set yourself up for future failure?